It is a battle of two 4-1 teams, the San Francisco 49ers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Welcome back to the BetCanada channel. Katie Caldwell and Jeff Lloyd here with you today. Jeff, I am so hyped for this game. Let's start with the Niners. So, Matt Jones, he has been balling out. What a job he's done, 3-0 as a starter, and I'll be honest, it doesn't look accidental to me. I think Kyle Shanahan is happy to have his guy. Do they ride the hot hand here and give Brock Purdy more time to come back from his injury? And I guess my second question is, could we eventually have a QB controversy here?
Yeah, this is a really interesting developing situation for San Francisco
I
because
agree.
there was huge interest in 2021 in Mac Jones's draft cycle with between Shanahan, the 49ers, and Mac Jones.
That's what I
So now
mean. He
here
got his
you
guy
are.
finally.
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely oh, I liked her then, she wasn't available, and now all of a sudden, years later, we kind of cross paths. And how right now at 3-0 and coming off a Thursday night win, of course, against the Rams, do you all of a sudden just say, and you can play it off there. Well, bro, Birdie needs a little more time. And it's not really a terrible situation for San Francisco because I'm not sure anybody truly believes that Mac Jones, this is a sustainable pace. So, okay, well, all right, Mac Jones had the bad moment. Now we go back to Brock Purdy and we go back to the plan that we initially had when this season all began. But you throw him out there, and obviously, if Kendrick Bourne is still going to be very high up, Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne certainly had a relationship from New England, and they obviously
Yeah.
found a way to make that work to the tune of a lot of production against the Rams. I don't know if we're ready that it's full blown controversy just yet. But if I am Shanahan, I am probably sticking with Mac Jones this week, just playing off that, hey, Purdy, we're going to get him. We're not bringing him back unless he's 100%. We already brought
Yeah.
him back once and he already left again, or, already had to leave again after 1 week. I think that's probably the best bet if I'm San Francisco. I'm kinda gonna roll with right now because I certainly don't wanna disturb the apple cart.
No, me either. It's been such an unexpected fun storyline these last few weeks. So, Jeff, you and I have talked about this on the show multiple times now. Baker Mayfield is playing out of his mind right now. What does the Niners defense have to do to slow him? Because Lord knows you're not stopping him.
Well, you're out without your number 1 pass rusher, so your first question of how do we stop him, and there certainly was a relationship from Baker in his days with the Browns and Bosa, and
Hmm.
certainly went back to their collegiate days of, the flag planting Oklahoma and Ohio State years and years ago, but Bosa's not there, so that is certainly a tremendous blow. However, you do have Robert Saleh there, and Robert Saleh has always been pretty much just absolutely in tune the way San Francisco views defensive talent just straight up lines up with the way Robert Saleh wants to coach. He
Mm.
wants athletic guys, he wants long guys, he wants hard hitters, and that's what San Francisco, even when Robert Saleh left to go to the Jets, that's what they continued to draft for him. The corners fit what he wants, the defensive linemen fit what he wants. But I don't know if any of it truly matters right now with Baker Mayfield, because look, he's taking some hits, he's getting sacked at times. But the thing with Baker Mayfield is, you're talking about an athlete 100% in the zone right now. So
Yeah.
it's not bothering him. His career in Tampa, to this point was made up of great success with Mike Evans. Mike Evans hasn't been around for a month now. Okay, well, Rook, you're up, and you know what? You're my number 1 guy, and it's not even come close to missing a beat with Emeka Mbuka to this point.
No.
So for Baker, he's just, and Baker, there's a lot of lost time here that he's trying to make up for. And Baker really
Mm.
felt that his career was going to be successful and sustainably successful for every year he was in this league. Obviously, there were those 2 years where it was kind of a broken road and, he was just kind of lost within himself and certainly lost within the league, but now just firmly established in Tampa. And, I will continue to say it, he is a top MVP candidate right
I
now.
agree.
You started the year missing some of your offensive linemen. You now missing Mike Evans, played last week without much of a running game, and it certainly didn't stop him against Seattle. There's nothing really holding Baker back right now. He's just, all right,
Mhm.
well, what's the 11 we got? All right, let's go to work. And, the arm strength is still there as it was when he came into the league in 2018 as a rookie. It's really fun and really enjoyable. And we've talked on this and touched on this a lot with Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. But, guys that basically, came into the league basically at the top of the, charts essentially flat down, broken down and busted essentially. And then all of a sudden, here they are again, leading very successful teams.
Is this one going to be a shootout? I think it has potential to be.
I would question whether or not, Tampa Bay's defense is probably maybe a little bit better, but you did just give up 35 last week to Seattle. So there is a
That's why I asked
chance,
that question,
we could
exactly.
there is a chance you could get a game very similar, I would think, in score-wise, to what we saw last week between, of course, Tampa Bay and Seattle. But then again, I mean, whether it's Purdy or whether it's Mac Jones, I mean, you're gambling on one guy to just continuously play out of his mind. And, with either one of those guys, there's certainly been times where there's hiccups. Baker, since he's been to Tampa, has just been a completely different version of himself and has just been a
Mhm.
great, consistent quarterback. So if Tampa Bay's D can maybe, cause this to not be a shootout, but, San Francisco clicking, definitely well without a ton of their offensive talent as well. Just some guys getting an opportunity and, kind of running with it. Maybe you get a Pearsall back this week. Maybe you get a Jennings back this week, which maybe
Mhm.
changes things up for San Francisco. But until we see that, I think, for Tampa, there should be the spot, where Tampa doesn't necessarily have to worry about every drive turning into
Mm.
points.
Quick pause. If you haven't subscribed to the BetCanada YouTube channel, you can do so below. It's free and it helps support our channel so we can keep bringing you NFL and NHL content. Now, back to the show. Are the Niners going to trade for a defensive lineman? I've heard, if you would have told me at the beginning of the season that they'd lose Brock Purdy and George Kittle and Nick Bosa, and they're sitting here at 4-1, I wouldn't have believed you. And some names I've heard thrown out: Trey Hendrickson, Carl Granderson, Jeffrey Simmons. Like, do you think it would be in their best interest sitting here at 4-1 to trade for a D lineman?
I think you get through this week and you see where you're at. But
Okay.
either way, 5-1, 4-2. I mean, you believe that you were absolutely totally in it. And obviously, some of those guys are coming back. Not necessarily everybody is coming back.
Hmm.
And what is, usually, and you saw it with the Chargers yesterday, made the move for Oa. This is something where, basically every team, if you think you're contending, usually the thing you're going to go say is, well, let's go get a little bit more pass rush. And, certainly, going to tip into that market. I'm not necessarily sure what's available maybe for the New York Jets, but I think you would just look there, obviously, because, a lot of players on that Jets defensive line were players that were acquired most likely with the thought process of Robert Saleh. So
That's a
you
good
see most
point.
likely if there is the connection there, if there's a guy that Robert Saleh thinks in New York that maybe can help him out here. But yeah, I mean that's kind of what smart teams do if you want to make a run, unless it's an injury void that you're trying to fill. And in this case, it
Hmm.
certainly is for San Francisco trying to replace some of the production you're missing from Bosa. Yeah, pass rusher is usually very high on the shopping list.
What is your score prediction in this one?
I personally think the Niners, this is gonna be the week maybe where it comes down a peg. I think there's no stopping, Tampa right now and just the way they're rolling. So if you were gonna put this on me, I'm probably thinking like a 31-23. I
Okay.
think this is one where I think, Tampa maybe finally gets the week where at the 2-minute warning, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can maybe start shaking hands with each other, maybe taking their helmets off, starting loosening some shoulder pads, as opposed to having to go the full 60 minutes every single Sunday.